Taskforce succeeds and include development of the solar consumer notice that must be included in all residential solar contracts, and the development and distribution of consumer protection information. Within the last 30 days, CSLB has put an alert on the CSLB webpage regarding contract payment restrictions, issued an industry bulletin reminding contractors of home contract requirements that include not requesting or receiving progress payments that exceed the value of work performed, and issued a press release on November 30th, 2022, announcing that a CSLB investigation resulted in 3 people being charged with burglary, grand theft, and division of construction funds. And one other solar fraud investigation I will highlight relates to a Los Angeles District Attorney criminal filing. On October 27th of this year, the LADA issued a press release announcing that 3 people have been charged in a 159 count complaint with identifying theft, identity theft, grand theft, and residential burglary. A peace officer in CSLB's Special Investigation Unit was instrumental in this investigation. I encourage staff to continue to work with government and industry partners to develop strategies to remove predatory contractors from the marketplace and reduce incoming solar complaints. With that, I will ask for comments on the Joint Agency Solar Task Force. Are there any comments from board members here in Sacramento? Are there any comments from members of the public here in Sacramento? Seeing none, are there any comments from board members in San Francisco?
Okay, thank you, Michael.
We're not quite done yet.
Carry on.
Agenda item E4, and an update on SESRP. This is better known as the Solar Energy System Restitution Program. So it's starting on page 82. In partnership with the task force, the CPUC was instrumental in securing a $5 million grant for the Energy Restitution Program, or SESRP. The program is funded from the state's general fund and includes $1 million of allocated monies to pay for CSLB's administrative costs. As part of the task force ongoing consumer protection efforts, the CPUC issued a decision that required PG&E to host a work group meeting after CSLB paid out 50% of the restitution fund. I was pleased to attend this meeting earlier this week. On Tuesday, the purpose of the meeting was to assess the SESRP at CSLB and determine whether there was a need for future funding. It was a lively group discussion with participants representing CSLB, the CPUC, PG&E, consumer advocates, contractors, and public interest law firms. The discussion revealed a general consensus that CSLB has effectively implemented the fund to date. There is concern with the impact of some large contractors who took multiple contracts for projects, front load progress payments, and do not complete the work and ultimately file for bankruptcy. There is also consensus that a future fund would benefit solar consumers, but no decision was made on how that would occur. CSLB will remain involved in the discussion of any future fund to ensure its parameters are clearly defined. There is a statistical update for this fund, which begins on page 82 of your packet. Thanks to recent publicity, this program reach has continued to expand, and as of November 9th, there has been 416 of these claims that have been received from consumers, and 153 of those claims have been approved for payment. Over $2.1 million of restitution has been awarded, and 117 claims have been closed without payment made. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Folk. Can you please comment on this fund status, please?
Yeah, just real quickly. As board member Michael Mark mentioned, we've had a dramatic increase in solar filed complaints, having a real hard impact on the enforcement division. I mean, we were thinking that getting 90 a month was too many, and now all of a sudden In November, we got 232, 150 the month before. And what's troubling about these complaints is that many of them have some very egregious acts. Their money was taken, and often, in many cases, no work was actually performed. So where we're at today is that we do have in your chart about 146 pending. Mariah is our statistician for this, keeps very close eye on these. And what Mariah has reported is that if we looked at those that are unrelated to one contractor in particular, the average payout being $15,000 per claim, with that and with what we've received against one contractor that's recently received, just in the last couple of weeks, 70 complaints, it's going to expend the balance of the fund. It's going to exceed, the balance of the fund. So we want to be responsible in how we handle this fund. When we got into this, we thought it would last us through 2024. But in large part because of 6 contractors, the fund is going to be expended. I've met with the board counsel, John Cumming, and he's reviewed the statute, and our proposal, what we're planning to do is to put on the website a 2-week deadline to file a claim. In doing that, we can limit or at least have an understanding of what our universe is. And we're also going to make it very clear that the statute, when it was set up, doesn't guarantee restitution to anyone. And that we're likely going to have to start paying out maybe 50 cents on the dollar at a certain point, because there's just not going to be enough funds remaining for everyone that's been financially harmed. As Michael said, we did have this meeting. There's some talk about how we might be able to receive additional funding in the future, but it's certainly not guaranteed. There's no plan today. So that's my update.
I'll take my privilege. Before moving on, while I did attend that meeting, there was the pulse of the room was that CSLB was administrating the fund real well, and unfortunately, there was not enough funds for this entire thing to keep moving on. So they're looking for additional funds, and overall, as a consumer protection agency, we're doing real well of trying to address the needs of the consumer. And unfortunately, these unscrupulous contractors, they go bankrupt, and there's nowhere else to reach. There's no bond to go after, so it's the last resort. So applaud CSLB for what they're doing. So with that, I'm going to move on. So Dave spoke a little bit about possible additional funding. And so the success of this solar restitution program has created some outside interest in creating a larger, similar fund for consumers who were financially injured due to projects funded through PACE, the Property Assess Clean Energy Program. As described at the bottom of page 82, the efforts to start a PACE restitution fund are being led by a public advocacy group called Clean Energy Justice. This group has proposed the creation of a much larger restitution fund for PACE projects with legislative funding and CSLB administration. Senator Robert Hertzberg and 5 Assembly members have formally requested that the Assembly Budget Committee fund the proposed PACE reimbursement program with a $65 million budget allocation. Discussions regarding this new reimbursement fund are ongoing, and staff will keep the board informed of future developments. From what I'm being told, there might be someone from Clean Energy Justice that would like to speak at this time. Are they in the audience? Jason, I made they're online.
Yes, we do have one. Stacy.
Can you repeat that name, Jason?
Stacy.
Yes. Can you all hear me? Thank you. My name is Stacy Tutt. I'm a senior attorney with the National Housing Law Project and a member of the Clean Energy Justice Coalition. As has been described in the materials as well as in this meeting, our coalition has been working diligently in order to obtain additional funds for homeowners who've been defrauded by the Property Assess Clean Energy Program. This effort started over a year ago through our efforts to make this budget allocation request. We have been working closely with the CSLB and the DFPI on the development of this and have really modeled it off of the great success of the Solar Energy System Restitution Program. We are continuing in these efforts this year and continue to request and have submitted a budget request for the PACE Restitution Fund, in which we are seeking $60 million in restitution, as well as a $5 million allocation to help in the administration of the fund. As we've continued to monitor what's happening with the Solar Energy System Restitution Fund, our organization is very supportive of that restitution program. And that's why we have looked at this PACE restitution program, modeling it off of that. We're also very supportive of helping in our efforts as well for additional funding or coordination with the Solar Energy System Restitution Program. But if there are any questions specifically about our efforts or what we're trying to do, I would be more than happy to answer those.
So first, is there any questions from board members here in Sacramento? Seeing none, is there any questions from board members in San Francisco?
No.
Seeing none, any public comment? Well,
We have none online.
there's one public comment online. Please state their name.
We have none.
Oh, none. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for that.
I do have one, sorry. I do have one comment that was put in the chat by Lucien Kupasi. He's making the comment. Right. The down payment needs to change depending on the project, not 10% or $1,000. That's the end of the comment.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Register folks, do you want to comment something on that?
Yeah, just to remind everyone that for home improvement, if you're installing solar on a residential property, the down payment is restricted. It's $1,000 or 10%, but it can't exceed $1,000. Now, where there's a problem in the solar industry is what we've seen is that the contract does provide for that $1,000 down payment, but it has a second payment. It's a progress payment that can be up to 75% of the contract price for work that hasn't been either performed or it's not valued at 75%. An example being, they'll request 75% for that second payment for plans, which are generally standard plans were used for other jobs. You could add some panels to them, but the plans and the applying for the permit does not exceed $3,500. This is what we've established through our contacts with California Solar and Storage Association, but yet they're receiving up to $35,000 at that point. The problem is if they receive that payment, they don't do the work, you've got a lot of financial harm occurring. So that's what we're trying to remind the industry. We're trying to remind consumers. Well, they're adhering to the down payment of $1,000. It's the subsequent payments that are causing consumer harm, and we have to keep a real close eye on that. We have to change the marketplace so they're not receiving that money before they do the work.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any board member comments in Sacramento in regards to the enforcement update as a whole? Seeing none, is there any public comments in Sacramento on the enforcement as a whole? Seeing none. In San Francisco, do you have any board comments?
No.
Thank you. I'll make a couple comments. A couple things. I do want to make it for the record again. The CSLB is always looking for new skiing houses. That is something that for the public to know. Please contact the office. It's very important. So the great work that Swift is doing, we'll continue to catch those unscrupulous contractors. And then secondly, I had the privilege of attending the enforcement supervisors meeting of all the program managers throughout California here in Sacramento. And it was a great meeting. I was able to get a better understanding of the day-to-day of the tough work that the enforcement division is doing on a daily basis. Great work. It's a great team. It was pretty good, lively conversations on many magnitude. And as a second thing, reminder is for the members of the public who are listening, we are always looking for additional experts in the field. So if you are an expert in your field, please contact CSLB. We do need experts of all the different license classifications to be industry experts. And with that, I'll say thank you. So that includes the Enforcement Division update. Back to Chair Tykert.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So we turn now to agenda item F, licensing. So leading us through the licensing and testing portion, beginning on page 85, will be Licensing Committee Chair Jim Ruane. So Jim is in San Francisco, and Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Tykert. Good afternoon.
Is it possible to be a little closer to the microphone? We're having a little trouble hearing you.
How's this?
Great.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Ruane, providing the licensing division update today. Begins at page 88. Our first item is 1, review, discussion, and possible action to grant construction management education account awards. You may recall at the end of each year, staff comes to the board to review and potentially approve grant awards for the construction management education account. In August 2022, the board requested and received approval from the Department of Consumer Affairs for a budget augmentation of $75,000, which will increase the CMEA's appropriation from $100,000 to $175,000 in fiscal year 2022-2023 to allow for additional support for institutions that offer construction management education. The $175,000 is distributed among 4 institutions selected by the Construction Management Education Advisory Committee. Revenues in the account are from voluntary contributions made by licensees at the time of the license fee payment and are sufficient to support this request. I'd like to ask the board to consider the following motion. Direct staff to distribute the 2022 CMEA grant awards according to the staff recommendation on page 89, based on approval from the Department of Finance to expend $175,000 from the CMEA account. And I'd like to entertain a motion at this time, and please state your name followed by the motion. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second, David Del Toro.
Miguel Galarza and David Del Toro. Are there any comments from board members in Sacramento?
Yeah, for public comment.
Yeah, Mr. Ruane, there's an error in your script. We apologize. We should ask for public comment and board member comment before the motion.
Okay. Any board member comment? Comments from the public?
No comments from online.
Any comment from board members in Sacramento? In San Francisco? Any comment from public comment in Sacramento? Any public comment remotely, Jason? No. Mariah, would you please call the roll?
Mary Tykert.
Aye.
Rodney Cobos, approved absence. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Alan Guy.
Aye.
Jacob Lopez.
Aye.
Diana Love.
Aye.
Michael Mark.
Aye.
Steve Pinelli.
Aye.
James Ruane.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mariah. Our item number 2 is an update, review, and discussion and possible action on licensing and testing strategic plan objective 1.1 regarding assessing barriers to licensure and outreach to increase licensing diversity of 2022-2024 licensing and testing strategic plan objectives. It's on page 92 of your packet. Item A is review and discussion regarding document translation. To reduce barriers to licensure, CSLB is working with vendors to increase access for candidates who are more comfortable using Spanish than English. CSLB entered a contract with a vendor to translate all 47 CSLB study guides into Spanish. CSLB has received the translated study guides, so both Spanish and English versions of the study guides will be posted to the website by mid-January. CSLB is also working with the IT division and PSI exams to translate 8 of the exams into Spanish by late spring of 2023. Law and business exam plus 7 trade exams. Over 70% of requests for Spanish translations are for these 8 exams. Licensing staff are finalizing a survey for licensing workshop attendees to better serve that community. Licensing staff is also working on a survey to be added to licensing applications to better understand the demographics of license applicants. Collecting demographic data is essential to evaluating where and how to target outreach efforts. The next agenda item will discuss the possible need for regulatory rulemaking to clarify any license examination translator restrictions. However, I would like to hear from a member of the public at this time. I know Board Member Diana Love and Registrar David Fote have been working with Community Leader and Victorville Councilmember Blanca Gomez on opportunities to remove barriers to licensure and further the board's efforts to increase its licensed population. But I believe Blanca spoke earlier in the meeting and used her time already, and she stated her concerns previously for the record. I believe that'd be acceptable.
Yes, that's my understanding as well, that she's now on the record with the comments that she previously provided.
All right, thank you. Any comment from board members in Sacramento? Any board member comments from San Francisco? Any public comment in Sacramento? No public comment remotely. Thank you. We'll move right on to item B. Review and discussion regarding possible need for regulatory rulemaking regarding translator restrictions on page 93. Until all examinations are translated into written Spanish, PSI Exams allows examinees to provide their own oral translator. 83% of CSLB examination translator requests are for Spanish. While CSLB is committed to removing barriers to licensure, there is concern that the CSLB translator form, which is very restrictive about translation services, may impose a barrier to minority communities. Licensing Division is reviewing the form to determine if there is a need to draft regulations to implement examination security requirements without being overly restrictive for translation services. After further research, Licensing Division staff will present a plan or possible translator form revisions to the Licensing Committee. Please see the sample of translator form on page 94. Do you have any comments from the board in Sacramento? Any comments from the board members here in San Francisco? Any public comment in Sacramento? Jason, any public comment remote?
I have a comment, a question.
Sure, go ahead.
On page 93 of the board packet, under B, where it talks about translator, what they can and cannot do within a 5-year period, is that something we're going to address today? Because my question is this, is can a translator translate for more than one person? And if so, would it violate those provisions that are there where it says that a translator cannot become a qualifier for another 5 years? But if there's a second person or a group of people, does that limit the translator?
Bob, would you be able to comment on that?
Well, if I could comment on that, I've had communications with our DCA legal counsel and also the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Professional Examination Services. And so this is something that they're looking at. That restriction is not unique to the CSLB. Other boards and bureaus have something very similar. What we're asking, what I'm proposing is that there be a department-wide policy so that the rules would apply to everyone, same rules would apply to everyone. So it's currently under review. We'll report back on their recommendation at the next licensing committee meeting or the board meeting in March.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments?
We have none on.
All right, thank you. Move right on to item number 3, licensing and testing program update and statistical summary. You can find the licensing update on page 98. I will highlight a few items for the board. Regarding applications, the packet on page 99 indicates the processing time for all application types. Currently, processing times are between 4 and 5 weeks. The goal is to drop off all processing times below 3 weeks and maintain this level. To address staff turnover, staff cross-training has been a priority. I would also like to report that the number of pending applications on page 100 has been reduced significantly between 2020 and 2021. As you can see, the number of processed and issued licenses has increased by 2,972, over an 18% increase. This increase is a result of changes put in place by licensing management, such as cross-training technicians to process multiple applications, streamlining application processes by calling applicants for corrections. This contributed to reducing the number of pending applications. As you can see on the chart on page 101, The number of incoming renewals continues to be steady. We are pleased to inform you that renewal processing times are currently at less than 1 week. Shortened processing time is due to licensees taking advantage of our online renewal service. Regarding workers' compensation stats on page 102, as of January 1st, 2023, per Senate Bill 216, the following classifications now require workers' compensation insurance: C8, concrete; C20, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning; D49, tree service; and C22, asbestos removal and remediation. November 1st, 2022, CSLB mailed 28,594 notification letters to the licensees that hold these classifications. In response, CSLB Workers' Compensation Unit received over 1,500 phone calls. The majority of these calls from sole owner licensees who do not have employees. They complained about the unnecessary costs that must incur. On page 111, you will note an update regarding CSLB's license application experience verification program. As the packet states, the CSLB, of course, diligently verifies the experience of all applicants for licensure. In addition, CSLB has a special rule that requires CSLB to randomly perform field investigation of 3% of applications received. At the last few board meetings, staff informed the board that this program was suspended during the pandemic. Today, staff wants to update the board that licensing began referring 3% of applications to the Enforcement Division in August of 2022. Please note on page 107 that telework schedules in the CSLB Licensing Information Center, or call center, have been modified for more consistent phone coverage. The Licensing Information Center, or LIC, has been moved under Public Affairs Division as of October the 1st. You can find the testing update on page 111. CSLB completed the transition to PSI exams on July the 1st. As of December 1st, 2022, PSI exams has administered 16,338 exams, and there are 4,277 exams scheduled. Currently, there are no backlogs in testing. Applicants can take their test at 20 PSI test centers in California. PSI offers after-hours and weekend scheduling as well. Finally, the Exam Development Unit has held numerous in-person workshops to continue occupational analysis and examination development work to update existing exams. Now I will turn it over to Carol Gagnon, Manager of Examination Development Unit, to summarize the consumer satisfaction and applicant survey on pages 115 to 139. Carol, it's yours.
All right, thank you. So we do 2 surveys for you guys every year. We do one consumer satisfaction for the Enforcement Division, and we do an applicant survey for the Licensing Division. For consumer satisfaction, we've been doing this since 1993. We email this survey, or modern now. We email this survey to consumers whose cases have been recently closed. This year we had about a 14% response rate, which is pretty good for a survey. 10% is about average, 14% is good. We have 8 questions that are positive to negative range. 6 of the answers moved up a little bit towards more positive, so things have gotten better since the pandemic. Consumers are slightly happier than they were. Our highest rating for consumer satisfaction was 81% for I was treated courteously by CSLB employees. So that is good. For the applicant survey, this survey, on the other hand, is emailed to people who have recently been licensed, who've just gotten their license. We also had a 14% response rate on this one. Again, pretty good. 87% said the process was easy to understand. 86% said they were satisfied by CSLB's service. And 71% said CSLB's communication was timely. So people seem pretty pleased with the application process. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Carol? All right, that concludes the licensing and testing update. FOAD is available if the board has any questions. In Sacramento, any comments from the board members? Board members in San Francisco? Any public comment in Sacramento? Jason, any public comment remotely?
Yes, we have Vince. Can you go ahead and unmute your line? Go ahead and speak, Vince.
Okay, thank you. My name is Vince Chefalou. I'm a marketing manager with Old Republic Surety Company. Couple real quick questions. On the licensing, we're not one of the companies that electronically file. What is the turnaround time for both? If a bond is electronically filed from a surety company, how long will it take for that to show up on the site? And then as opposed to that, we have agents that email the bond in. How long would it take for that turnaround time?
Errol, is that something you can respond to?
That I'm not sure about. That would be more of a thought question, and you might have to research it. The turnaround time for, as far as I understand, this is the turnaround time for those who renew online. How quickly does it get updated as opposed to renew on paper? How quickly does it get updated? Is that correct?
The renewing
For bonds.
The bonds pod?
for bonds, yeah, those are actually instantaneous. So if they do it online, it should be updating our system right away.
To the surety company electronically submits it.
Electronic something, this we are about 1 week processing right now.
And sir, I'm not sure who you are, but I mean, are you saying with the electronically filing, it takes a week?
No, you said it was instantaneous pod if it's electronic?
It is actually, we will get a list from the IT with the name, and then our technicians have to go through those and then make sure it is acceptable. So it takes
Okay, so
about.
that's the data dump that comes from a surety company if they're set up for electronically filed with you guys. What about an email coming from an insurance agent or broker with a copy of the bond to you guys if we're not electronically set up as a company, a surety company?
Yes, yes. The ones that come through the email and come through the mail, they will send to our scanning. Once they're scanned into the system, then the technician will process those. It usually takes between 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay, we're entertaining getting set up electronically filed for you guys as a surety company, but our company wanted to know what the difference was and how quickly they get up on the board.
The fastest way, I think the question is.
You answered that. I appreciate it. The second part of this is, where is the new $25,000 bond form? To date, I don't know anybody that has seen it.
We put it on in December, right? Early December.
For the 25,000? Yes, yes, we will send out. We will also, we send it out to the surety companies and there is like 7 or 8 of them that, with the surety companies, we get endorsement, blanket endorsement. There is 7 or 8 of them that are like, they have one here, one there. We actually sending the mail to them as of today.
Okay, but here's the overall problem with that from a surety company, an insurance agent and a broker and the contractor.
We're over the 3-minute
Somebody
contract.
wants to go in and buy a bond on 1/2/23.
Can you hear
the
me?
surety company's website
Sir?
to get a new bond with a $25,000 penalty. They're still locked into a $15,000.
Sir, can you?
Can't give them the new bond with the new penalty because you guys haven't released it yet.
So, sir, it sounds like we'd like to take this offline. We appreciate that the comment, and we're over 3 minutes, but it's obviously an important topic. So can you put your email in the chat?
Jason Perez, could we trouble you to put FOD's email address in the chat? And the gentleman on the line can contact FOD directly with his questions. We're over the 3-minute comment period on this item.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Are you saying put my email address in the chat?
No, we're going to give you our person's contact information and title so that you can follow up directly.
Thank you so much.
And Jason, you got that?
Yes,
Awesome.
Any other comments? Any other public comments remotely, Jason?
yes, we have a call-in user number 6. I'm unmuting your line.
Go ahead with your comment.
It's not unmuted yet. Hold on one second.
I'm not sure if that's coming
Back
back
to me again.
again.
Again, it's Vince with OR Surety. You answered my question, so I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Anything else, Jason?
yes. And call in user number 7.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ana Cortés. Tengo una traductora que me ayude. Aquí es Blanca Gómez.
Hi, my name is Ana and I have a translator and her name is Blanca Gomez.
Tengo una sugerencia.
I have certain suggestions.
Que en lugar de gastar tanto dinero con el que van a contratar para ver quién no tiene licencia.
So in order of spending some extra amounts of resources to do enforcement with the contracting licenses.
Que pongan un programa piloto para tener la papelería de estudiar, para sacar la licencia en español y el examen en español.
So I have a suggestion to instead implement resources on a pilot program that you can understand what the processes are when you begin to put materials in Spanish and also the examination in Spanish so you can tailor it to the needs of the people.
Sería muy beneficioso para los dos lados, para la comunidad, progresaría más y hay mucha gente capacitada que nomás necesita adaptarse a las leyes de aquí y beneficio para ustedes porque la gente pagaría impuestos, que mucha gente no lo paga porque no puede agarrar la licencia.
So the suggestion would be very beneficial on both sides. There's a lot of members in the community that are Spanish speakers that would that are qualified but don't have the means in terms of having something related in their language. So once this is implemented in the language of Spanish, we can start to see the capital growth and the taxation begins to grow for the state of California.
Y eso se necesita mucho en la comunidad latina porque el impedimento ahorita es el idioma y más escribirlo y leerlo.
So for the communities of Latinx, this would be very beneficial because there's not only the language barrier, but also the written communication that comes along with some of these rigors.
Entonces es una sugerencia con una necesidad grande y beneficiosa.
So if I can restate the same item, it's very important for you guys to understand the needs that the community, the Hispanic community needs. And this is why I'm able to comment today. Hopefully you guys take my considerations.
Thank you for comments. Any other members of the public?
Oh, and we would also encourage you, if you would like to reach out to Fod, he's our licensing division chief and would be able to also respond and have Spanish-speaking folks respond as well if you'd like to continue that dialogue. And Fod's email is in the chat.
Yeah.
Any other public comments?
Yes, we do have one more. Jason, go ahead. It appears you've disconnected your mic. Jason, can you leave your comment in the chat?
I think we're done with public comment. Hopefully leave it in the chat. This concludes the licensing items on the agenda. Thank you, Chair Teichert. Back to you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, we'll move on to item G, Public Affairs. This section of our agenda begins on page 141, and I will turn it over to Public Affairs Committee Chair Alan Guy.
Thank you, Chair Tykert. I want to begin by welcoming Chief of Public Affairs, Catherine White, who was appointed on October 3rd. Turning to page 144 of your packet, I would like to present the Public Affairs Update, which is agenda item G1. I will cover a few highlights. CSLB works to educate consumers so unlicensed or other unscrupulous contractors do not harm them after a disaster. CSLB staff were at local assistance centers, LACs, after fires in Mariposa, Siskiyou, and Placer counties, and after a mudslide in San Bernardino County. You can find more information about the disaster response outreach on pages 144 and 145. The Public Affairs Office continues to produce videos for promotion on social media and the CSLB website. In addition, staff continues to produce English and Spanish versions of the monthly Get Licensed to Build webcast. The live webcasts have been well attended by those interested in a contractor's license. Pages 146 to 147 highlight the webcasts and videos produced since the last board meeting. We will discuss video and production on the next agenda item. You'll note at the bottom of page 147 that the number of CSLB social media followers continues to increase as Public Affairs works to inform contractors and consumers. Pages 148 to 149 explain more about that growth and outline our social media highlights, which include a post promoting Construction Inclusion Week and the new workers' compensation insurance requirements for 4 classifications. As always, we invite you to follow CSLB on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Flickr. You can find the links on the CSLB website. For stakeholder communications, the Public Affairs staff have issued several industry bulletins. Since our last update to the board in August, we have issued industry bulletins on new requirements for mechanical systems acceptance tests and bond changes for licenses. In addition, not included in the packet were bulletins issued regarding progress payment restrictions and the workers' compensation insurance requirement. On page 152 is information about CSLB's ongoing media relations work. Public Affairs regularly fields inquiries from the media on multiple CSLB-related topics and distributes news releases when appropriate, such as press releases about unlicensed contractor stings. Pages 151 and 152 detail the ongoing work with California legislators on our consumer and senior scam stopper workshops. Pages 153 and 154 detail the publication and design services of the Public Affairs staff. They're constantly working on new publications and updating outdated information in older publications. This includes the latest version of the California Contractors License Law and Reference Book. In addition to all this work of our Public Affairs staff, they regularly update the employee internet site with stories, photos, and informational updates, including for upcoming CSLB events. The Public Affairs staff continues to further CSLB communication objectives, and we thank them for their hard work and dedication. Since this is an informational item, no action is required of the board. Do we have any public comment here in San Francisco? No. Any public comment in Sacramento? Any comment online?
Yes, we have Jason online again. Go ahead, Jason.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted, I appreciate Vince calling in. This is about the bond again. And I'd just like to speak on that a little bit again. So we're an agency that writes quite a few of these bonds. And what I just want to, basically say the sureties are getting quite concerned that you guys haven't dropped the bond form yet. And what they're most concerned about, obviously, most of them have refiled the rates to match the amount. But several sureties have dropped out of this market in the last few years, and and we want to create a competitive market.
Excuse me, sir. We definitely appreciate the topic. You've also had the 3 minutes of public comment that we set up as a ground rule for this event. We would welcome you to reach out to our licensing chief, Fuad, who I believe his email is in the chat. So we encourage you to follow up, but we have reached public comment limit on this topic.
All right. Well, if the language changes on the bond significantly, it could essentially be a train wreck. especially this close to the bond amount changing. So,
Want me to send
but
it?
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Any other public affairs comment?
No.
All right. For the next two agenda items, both rated 2022-2024 strategic plan, we'll turn to Chief of Public Affairs, Catherine White.
Thank you, Alan. All right. Next is agenda item G2, which is about strategic objective 4.4, develop video tutorials on processes and procedures to reduce consumer, licensee, and applicant errors. So on pages 156 and 157, we explain the process of selecting videos and future videos that are in the works. We'll now show you two of the videos that CSLB television specialist Amy Lawrence developed this last year. First video, CSLB Quick Tips, Renew Your License Online, walks licensees through the online renewal process on CSLB's website. And then, Natalie, can you please play the first video?
Is it time to renew your contractor's license? If you're renewing a single qualifier license or home improvement salesperson registration, you can renew your license entirely online at cslb.ca.gov. For multiple qualifier licenses, you will need to mail or hand deliver a completed renewal form along with your payment. Let's start by going to cslb.ca.gov. Click on Licensees at the top of the page and renew your license. Here you can see the different options we offer for renewal. If you're a single qualifier, you'll select the first link, which is to renew a single qualifier license. With this option, you can just follow the online steps and pay your renewal and the 2.99% processing fee, which will be added to the renewal cost, and your license will automatically be updated. This page lists the renewal fees for active and inactive licenses, depending on your situation. An active license must be renewed every 2 years and allows you to perform work for the classifications you are licensed for. If your license is inactive, you cannot practice as a contractor or submit a bid for work. Inactive licenses must be renewed every 4 years. If your license is inactive, you do not need to maintain any bonds, workers' compensation, or designate a qualifying individual. You can find more information on inactive licenses by clicking on Licensees on the CSLB homepage and maintain or make changes to your license. Then select Inactivating your license for more details about how inactive licenses work. If you're renewing multiple qualifier licenses, you will want to select the second link on the CSLB online renewal page. That link is Renew Multiple Qualifier Licenses. For this option, you will have to mail or hand deliver your signed renewal, payment, and any required paperwork such as current bond or workers' compensation information. It's very important to mail or hand deliver these items before your license expires to avoid paying late fees and ensure that your license status is updated as soon as possible. We cannot update your license until we get all the paperwork from you. You can mail your paperwork to CSLB at P.O. Box 26000, Sacramento, California 95826. The final option on the CSLB online renewals page is to renew a home improvement salesperson registration. This process is done solely online, so there is no need to mail any paperwork to CSLB. Your license record will be updated as soon as you complete the online process. Remember that renewing on time before your license expires helps keep your license in good standing with CSLB. If you'd like to verify your license expiration date, you can look on your current pocket card or online at checkthelicencefirst.com. Thank you for watching. For more information on renewing your California contractor license, visit cslb.ca.gov/renewals.
Thank you, Natalie. The second video is a Spanish translation of the CSLB Quick Tips, Gardeners versus Landscapers, which reminds consumers of the steps to follow when hiring a licensed contractor for outdoor projects. We have provided a version with English subtitles for the board members and audience. Natalie, can you please play the second video?
La primavera está aquí y es hora de eliminar algunos de esos proyectos al aire libre. Entonces, ¿contratas a un paisajista o un jardinero? ¿Y cuál es la diferencia entre ellos? Los jardineros generalmente se centran en el mantenimiento de su jardín, como cortar, desmalezar, cultivar y recortar arbustos. Por lo general, no se les exige que tengan una licencia estatal a menos que realicen trabajos relacionados con la construcción o realicen reparaciones que cuestan más de $500 en mano de obra y materiales. Los paisajistas suelen estar involucrados en el trabajo de construcción al aire libre. Aquí hay algunos proyectos de paisajismo comunes que requieren una licencia. Para proyectos como estos, busque contratistas activos de paisajismo C27 que tengan licencia de CSLB. Algunos proyectos, como los que incluyen césped artificial, revestimientos de piscinas de vinilo o sistemas de riego, pueden ser realizados por un contratista de especialidades limitadas o productos sintéticos C61 o D12. Los contratistas de paisajismo C27 que asumen piscinas, spas o jacuzzis también deben tener una licencia de especialidad de piscina C53 o subcontratar con un contratista que tenga una licencia C53. Siempre recuerde, cualquier proyecto de construcción que sea de $500 o más en costos combinados de mano de obra y materiales requiere una contratista con licencia estatal. Evite ser estafado haciendo su investigación, obteniendo 3 ofertas y verificando referencias y sitios de trabajo. Para obtener más consejos sobre cómo contratar una contratista con licencia, visite cslb.ca.gov.
Thank you, Natalie. Amy also recently finished a video that further details the online renewal process for single qualifier licenses. She's also working on an explainer video about owner builders and an update to the what to expect on test day video since CSLB testing transition to PSI.
Thank you, Catherine. This is an update only item. Do we have any board comment here in San Francisco? Any board comment in Sacramento?
Michael Mark has a comment. That was my first time seeing that second video. It was actually really well produced. I'm assuming there's an English version of that same thing. That's what I'm reading in the packet. So it was a really good video and a good translation. That's all.
Any public comment in Sacramento? Any public comment online, Jason? Great. Catherine will now present agenda item 2.
Thanks, Alan. The final public affairs agenda item is regarding strategic plan objective 4.5, which begins on page 160 and states: developed communications with C20, warm air, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, and C38 refrigeration contractors on energy work in line with Governor Newsom's carbon reduction goals. CSLB staff are planning a industry stakeholder meeting by the end of the year with C20 HVAC and C36 plumbing stakeholders to discuss emerging technologies, possible new classification regulatory updates, and consumer and industry outreach opportunities to review enforcement compliance strategies.